G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On this episode, I am joined by Cass from the Aussie Adventuress. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.
That's good. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. It's something we've been talking about for a few weeks now. You've just spent some time out in the bush, so we were able to get it sorted. So, how was your time out bush?
Oh, well, it's always nice to be out in the bush. It's one of my favourite places. Yes, I spend quite a lot of time out there. This time was over near Omeo, pretty chilly, but I have just bought a diesel heater, so that's been a bit of a game changer to add into the electric blanket that I already had, and there's several sleeping bags and thermals, and yeah, it was a great time. Beautiful.
What type of camping setup are you running then?
Well, I have several options. So I've got a 4-drive that I've kitted out. So it's got a rooftop tent on it, but it's too cold at this time of year. And also it's not practical when you want to go hunting to have to set it up and pack down every day. I've also got a swag, but on this trip I took a tent, so a dome tent, and I just bought a stretcher, another game changer. So It was like having a single bed in there. It only just fit. So yeah, I had the tent with the stretcher, sleeping bags, diesel heater, electric blanket, had the gazebo with the walls. I was very cozy.
Is that a tent or a sauna?
Oh, it kind of was. So we were joking that if you actually put it under thermal, you'd probably just see this big glowing dome. Yeah, it was pretty cozy in there.
There's probably a few UFO reports of some guys that using thermals out there, just see this big glowing dome in the distance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. When you're running swag, are you running the electric blanket in that too, or?
Oh, definitely. Yes, I have a dedicated battery box with a 120 amp hour lithium battery that is just for that. Just make sure it doesn't run out, and I've got solar panels to charge it during the day as well.
That's awesome. Fully decked out then, so you're nice and warm.
Yeah, absolutely. I go prepared. I actually confuse a lot of people because I have a pretty humanoid appearance, but I'm actually biologically a lizard. So it's really important that I take my own heat sources because my body doesn't generate its own.
How do you go with backpacking trips? Have you done any overnight backpacking stuff?
I have not. No, I have thought about it before, and it's one of those things that if I did decide that I wanted to do it, I would gear myself up correctly and make sure that I'm prepared, both physically but also mentally prepared for what that would entail. It's not high on my list, or it's not actually on my list at the moment, so it's not something that I've had to prepare myself for. I don't know how I would go with it, actually, if I decide that that's something I want to achieve.
Check out Domex sleeping bags. They've got one there that's a -18 comfort rating, and it's -18 or -19. It is super comfy and warm. That's what I run.
And I do believe you, but I feel like that's rated for humans and not reptiles. So, I will check that out if I do go down that route.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's jump straight into it. How did you get into hunting and fishing? You said earlier before we started the podcast that you're an early onset hunter, adult onset hunter. Yeah, I grew up, hunting wasn't part of my history when I was growing up. I have always been around firearms, so that was something I've always been aware of. So firearms have never been taboo. And I've probably always had a curiosity towards hunting. I've known it was a thing that happens. I had actually seen it, but never had the opportunity to partake in it myself. And then I guess throughout life, you just get into whatever activities are offered to you based on the people that you know, and I've got a huge bucket list, so it wasn't something that was at the top of the list of things that I wanted to do, and I pursued all kinds of other adventures. And then a few years ago, probably 3.5, 4 years ago, I got into long range rifle shooting for targets. just to compete. And through that process, I got to enjoy the precision that is required, and I really enjoyed the process of doing the long range shooting. At a similar time, this was after COVID, and I'd already been thinking about supply chain for food and where our food comes from. I think those things kind of mixed together, and there wasn't like one moment where that was my origin story. It was a lot of little moments, and there was just at some stage I just the thought occurred to me, I can hunt, and started the journey of looking into what that would mean. And because at the time I didn't know anyone that hunted at all, so there was this process I went through of working out how to get into hunting when you don't know anyone that does it, you don't know what the process is. I was confident that if I was to find a deer in the bush, that I would be able to take an ethical shot. But it was everything before pulling the trigger and everything after pulling the trigger that was a mystery to me. Understanding the deer behavior, where they're likely to be located, understanding the legal requirements as well in terms of firearms and projectiles, all of that, I didn't know what I needed to do. And then afterwards as well, I'd never butchered an animal before. So that was something that I needed to look into. And yeah, from the time of making that decision, I started seeking out that information and fell down the rabbit hole, and I have I have continued down it, and I'm quite deep in it now, three or so years later.
That's awesome. What made you get into long range shooting to start off with?
I think it was just one of those things. I've done a lot of different activities and tried a lot of things. Some things have stuck because I've really enjoyed them, and other things I've just been happy to have the experience. I've driven a Centurion tank, but I didn't buy one. Almost did, because the place I drove it at, when they closed down, they sent an email out to anyone that had previously driven tanks there, and they're like, hey, these are for sale. Thank goodness I didn't have a lot of equity in my home at the time. Otherwise, I could be a proud tank owner right now. I really enjoy learning new skills and developing up, my zombie apocalypse preparedness. I just enjoy learning new things. So starting the long range, there wasn't a particular need to do that. It was in amongst a whole heap of other activities that I have tried. And then once I decided that I actually wanted to get into hunting, the idea of shooting and competing for targets was not as appealing, other than to keep up my proficiency. So I still enjoy that. But it was just like, well, if I'm going to be shooting, I'd rather be going out into the bush and using those skills in a practical application where I can harvest meat. Well, that was my thought, right? But then it turns out that you spend a lot of time in the bush for a little bit of meat. But I'm sure that as you go on, you get more and more proficient. And I actually don't mind, because I really just love being out there anyway.
That's awesome. You answered my next question. About the, whether you're still doing long range shooting today and you're still doing the target stuff. So that's awesome. When it came to looking in, like finding information on how to hunt, what to do, where did you start there?
I started where I start for a lot of things, with a Google search, hunting, or how to get into hunting, and a few different resources came up. One of the first ones was the Australian Hunters Club, and I had a look at that and looked and saw that Chris Waters, who runs it, was located down in Geelong near me, and just gave him a call. I was like, oh, well, suss this all out, had a chat, and was really encouraged by the information given there, and joined the Australian Hunters Club. I then did a course with Naturally Sufficient, who are located out in Flowerdale. They do the course, which is sort of from start to finish. It goes from even purchasing firearms, which I already had my firearm license, but it talks about firearms and ethics and deer behaviour and butchering and the whole suite of things that you would need to know. Tracking, there was a field trip component of that, going out and actually looking for deer sign. So I did that course, and that was really informative. That was all the theoretical skills and then some of the in-field practical skills, but not actually hunting itself. I then did a guided hunt with Pete from Board Adventures, and I guess there's a range of different options that you can do with guided hunts. This was not one where you just get led to an animal and you point your gun and shoot. It's very educational, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to just... the hunt was actually a really important component for me, and actually having to work for it. It was more just that I hadn't done that before, and going out with someone that was experienced and could teach me as we're going was really appealing. So I did that. We got close a couple of times to deer, not close enough and not with them in sights enough for me to be able to take a shot. However, I felt that was really helpful to go out and just to get a feel for what I'm looking for and the anticipation that comes and the whole process. So that was really good. Around the same time, I was also doing some bow shooting at the, I think it was called Western Archers. This is just another one of those things where I'm like, I've not done that. I want to try this hobby.
That's awesome.
So I was doing just I think they call it field archery, maybe. You're shooting at 3D targets and then also just the 2D targets. So I did that for, I want to say a couple of months. It wasn't a very long time, but one of the guys that I met there was a member of the ADA in Geelong, and we started talking, and I was talking about that I was starting this journey, and he's like, oh, you should come down and check out the ADA. And so I did that, went and checked that out and decided to join there. And so I've been a member of both clubs, and they've both actually really given me different components of what I was seeking in my hunting journey, and have both been a part of my, I guess, origin story. After that, I did a course with the ADA as well, an education weekend, which is on site down in in Nearham South. Maybe that's part of Gippsland. Gippsland's huge. Over that way. And so I did that course, and that was really good because that was actually after I had actually taken my first deer, I did that on a weekend with some guys I'd met through the ADA. We had a weekend away and I shot my first deer. And it was really interesting doing the ADA education course after I'd shot a deer, because there's a whole heap of new skills that you attain in that process, and then learning or revising the information. It was really comforting actually to realize just how much I had learned in that previous, almost 2 years, I think it was, by the time I'd gotten to that stage. And you always learn new gems. There's always just more that you can learn, no matter how much you think you know. I like the saying that only a fool thinks they know everything. And that is how I intend to continue pursuing my hunting journey, is to just always be open to learning new information.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and still being discerning though, just because you receive new information doesn't mean it's good information, but being open to assimilating new pieces into my existing repertoire of hunting knowledge.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like you've gone down a real big learning journey. Naturally Sufficient, that's Wally? Is that Wally's course?
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, beautiful. I had the pleasure of meeting Wally end of last year. Him and his son came out fishing with my son. So it was why he was down in South Australia. So he's a cool guy, cool course. So anyone getting into hunting and you're in Victoria, check that out. He does bow hunting courses. I know lots of South Australians go there. Then he does stuff with Pete as well that you went out hunting with as well.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful.
So there's young Pete and old Pete, they say. So young Pete does the bow hunting, old Pete does the rifle hunting. And they also have other offerings at the farm that they run there around permaculture and other sustainable living practices. So there's a lot on offer there. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, Lockie, one of my mates, the Tannery Bar, he's just done a course down there with Wally, teaching people how to tan skins. So I think there's more of that.
Yeah. I need to shoot a fellow before I look into that. I don't think I'm going to tan a sambar hide.
Nah, they're just not as pretty, are they?
No. A little bit rough.
That's awesome though. So you went from shooting your first deer, you went to the ADA course as well, refreshed your skills there. Where have you gone since then?
I've been to a lot of places. Because I'm a member of both the ADA and the Australian Hunters Club still. So there's lots of opportunities that have come up to do branch hunts and then hunting just with friends that I've made throughout each of those clubs. It's interesting because there's lots of different opinions about how you should approach hunting, and some people are diehard that you should go to the same spot religiously over and over and over, learn the landscape, and I don't disagree. So this is not me saying don't do that. This is just me saying that part of the hunting for me, or one of the things I love about hunting, is that I get to explore, and I by nature love to explore new spaces. And one of the things I do as being part of these clubs is get to see new areas, get to explore new country, which is really enjoyable for me. I do realize that there's potentially a trade-off there in terms of not knowing the landscape as well, and perhaps not being as proficient in harvesting deer, which is one of my objectives in hunting. But there's also the benefit of getting to see new spaces. So been up to several places in the high country, just recently been over in Omeo, been over west as well to Brimble State Forest, where there's a bunch of fallow over there. I've got other opportunities coming up as well with both of the clubs in all places in Victoria. So far only Victoria, which I feel very blessed actually that I'm located in the area, which is where I want to hunt most. I have been to the Nundle State Forest on a camp with the Australian Hunters Club, but I wasn't hunting then because I was on my way back from a road trip to Fraser Island and having to take firearms through 3 states and do all that. And I end up just deciding that's just going to be a social weekend, that one. But yeah, no, I've only hunted in Victoria.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sounds like you've squeezed in a lot in your short career of hunting.
I have, and I do think that there is benefit in trying different areas because the landscapes are quite different, and the ways that you have to approach hunting can be different if it's dry or if it's wet, and if it's out in the open or if it's thick bush. It's all really interesting, and I think it's one of those things. If a particular area really appealed to me and I felt that was where I'm wanting to drill down, so I have been back to some areas more than once, but also I'm still quite new in my career, and I don't mind just trying it all out, seeing what works.
No, that's good. As a woman coming into hunting, how was it? Was it very daunting? And, because most of these clubs tend to be very male dominated. How did you go with all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've been in a lot of male-dominated spaces in my life, and just randomly, like some of the activities that I've enjoyed have been predominantly men, and even in some of the work that I've done, there's been a lot of men. Hunting is one of the most comfortable spaces I guess I've gone into, because a lot of the guys that I have met are really quality people who are very respectful and have this really honourable practice of hunting. So I think that helps. They're blokes that actually sit around a campfire and actually have meaningful conversations. So I'm sure that helps. But it's one of those things that, yeah, absolutely. When I have gone into clubs, there have been times when I'm the only female present. It's never bothered me. I just think a good person's a good person, and unless anyone's giving me a reason to feel physically unsafe, then I am responsible for being confident enough to go into that space. So and none of the blokes that I've met through either of my hunting clubs or extended hunting circles have ever made me feel physically unsafe. I don't need people to roll out the red carpet and do anything special and fancy for me. It's on me. That's my personal responsibility to feel confident enough to go into those spaces. And, sometimes when people are talking, they'll be saying, oh, it's great to have all these blokes here. And I know that, I'm not a bloke, but I don't care. I'm like, cool. All right. I'm one of the blokes. That's fine. I don't need that. And I think this is one of the things that, for some women, the reason why they wouldn't go into a male-dominated space is because of experiences they've had that have nothing to do with the hunting community. Unfortunately, pretty much every woman at some stage in their life has feared for their safety, has been harassed, has been touched in ways that they don't want to be or had things said to them that makes them feel really unsafe. So long as there's not that, I am A-okay, and that has not happened. So other than that, I mean, I've met some really, really great people. In fact, I really love it when people just treat me like one of the boys, because if I go into a meeting, or if I'm in a hunting community and people say, want to come out for a hunt, I want to know that they're inviting me for a hunt. And that's what I'm saying yes or no to. If they're asking a bloke to go out for a hunt, it's pretty much assumed that that's not a date. That is a hunt. And I would want the same courtesy, that if someone is inviting me for a hunt, that is all it is. So that's all I want. I just want to be treat me like one of the boys. No special treatment required.
No, that's awesome. I can definitely see where you're coming from there. You see a lot of women, posting on some of the hunting groups that they're trying to get in. They're worried. What would be your advice to new women getting into the hunting scene?
Yeah, I guess it's tricky, right? Because I can only speak on my experience, and I don't want to deny anyone else's journey or what they've witnessed or experienced when they've tried to get into the space. I always challenge anyone, or encourage people to reflect on what has happened and what meaning they've taken from it. And this is for any person going into any space or having trying to achieve any goal. Because it's really easy to find offense if you're looking for it, and it's easy to find acceptance if you're looking for that. One example is, I remember it was the second time that I went to a meeting at the ADA, and I walked in, there was a bunch of people in conversations, having chats. No one approached me, no one started talking to me. I could have quite easily thought that they were doing that because I'm female, or they're not welcoming me. But I just thought, well, you know what? I've also not started a conversation since I walked in. So I just walked up to someone and I was like, hey, how you going? And started having a chat. And it turned out it was, I think, his first or second time there. And so we had a bit of a chat. So I could have thought, oh, they're not being welcoming. Or I can decide, well, I also can start a conversation, and then I can make my assessment on these people and this space and whether or not I want to be here based on the reciprocation, whether it's there or not. And over time, I got to know people, and now I walk in, I know a bunch of people, and I seek out new faces because I know what it was like walking in there, not as a female, but as a human. It can be daunting going into a space where you don't know people. So I now try, when people come and they're new, I want to welcome them and make sure that I connect them in with a few people and get them starting in conversations, because it can be hard for anyone. I don't think that that's a female condition, that's a human condition. And some blokes are great at talking to women, some aren't. I don't need men to do some sort of social skills course in order for me to feel like I can hunt. That's not their responsibility. They're already just there, existing, enjoying what they're doing. It's not on them to do anything special to make me feel welcome. Like I said before, so long as they're not doing anything to make me feel unsafe, which they're not, then that's, I guess, and as well, like when you asked what advice would I give to women, I think this is a step that every person goes on when they're in their hunting journey. It's not just a female thing, but everyone will find their tribe. For some women, that's other women. For some women, so for me, there were no women in my origin story. So the pool of people that I had to make friends in were blokes, and I don't look at that as a negative. I don't feel like, I've trudged through the trials and tribulations of making friends with boys like that. I don't view it that way, but I respect that for some women they want to be friends with other women, and I now do know other women that hunt, and that's really enjoyable for me because they're good humans, not just because they're women. They're just good humans, and I love that. I'm actually, so one of the things that I'm working on with Kai Fano and Tegan from the Victorian
Deer Kai, she's awesome.
She is.
And Tegan too. I've had Tegan on.
They're both great girls. They're really resourceful, really down to earth. So we had a little getaway together where we hunted together, and through conversations that we've been having, there we are looking to do a women's hunting weekend. So, which I don't ever want to make any suggestion or talk in a way that would imply that there's hunting and women's hunting. It is one space that everyone can hunt in. It just so happens that for some women, like the stuff I was talking about before, for some women, there are reasons why hunting with men wouldn't feel safe because of experiences they've had outside of the hunting community that have nothing to do with the blokes that they're meeting. It's nothing personal, but they might not feel as comfortable in that space. And so we're not creating a separate space for them to hunt in. It's more a bridge in, a way for them to feel comfortable. It's that could be part of their journey, is helping them to understand that this is a space that they can be in as well, and giving them that confidence.
No, that's awesome. And it's definitely something that's much needed in hunting in Australia, is a nice community of women that will help each other out, especially if people feel certain women feel uncomfortable coming into, a primarily male dominated, space. So that's great to hear. It's probably not a positive to focus on, but I feel like I have to ask it because I have seen it in the past when it comes to women in hunting, is this tends to be there has been a lot of bitchy. I'm just trying to work out how to put this. So there has been a lot of bitchiness in the past in some of there'll be like a small community of women getting together hunting, and then bam, it all blows up. And the same thing happens on the guy's side as well. Egos get involved and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Have you ran into much of this on either side?
So I guess I don't know enough women probably for to have witnessed that. I don't engage in drama with men or women.
That's great.
So it's just, you know what, like, I just feel like the world would be a much better place if everyone just let people be who they need to be, and then from that decided what position, if any, they can have in your life. So, you know what, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and they're not going to be mine. I think we can coexist, and so long as you're not hurting anyone, fill your boots. Like it comes back to that personal responsibility. If you don't like something, you don't have to engage with it. So yeah, I've not had any dramas with any men or women. But I do find it funny when people talk about, women or bitchiness or drama or whatever, because you're right, it happens with men too. They just call it politics, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. That's our club politics. Yeah, okay, cool. You're just having drama and you're rebranding it. But I don't know. Like I actually haven't been personally involved in any kind of dramas or politics or bitchiness. So yeah, can't I've got no inside goss or anything, or any juicy stories in that regard.
Oh, it's not so much juicy stories or anything that I was chasing. It's just something I've noticed through, Facebook groups, and certain groups like start kicking off and then they just implode, and it happens on both sides of the fence too. So it's just, there hasn't been a real strong community of women in hunting. So it'd be awesome to see. And, like I said, from chatting to you, meeting Kai and chatting to Kai lots, and chatting to Tegan as well, it sounds like you've got a great group of women that would be amazing role models for women getting into hunting. So I'm very excited to see what happens there, because with hunting, it being mainly a male-dominated industry, sport, whatever you want to call it, lifestyle, we need more women getting involved. And it's something that I feel like I've been promoting and trying to help people. I get all different messages through Facebook and Instagram, and I'm just like, just get into it, go join a club. You've got people like Cads up in New South Wales. She does an awesome job of women in shooting courses and stuff through the SSAA, which has been awesome to see. And it's just great to see more women getting involved.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice. It's nice encouragement, and it's one of those things where it's tricky, right? Because there's probably lots of reasons why people get into hunting, and there are some traits that are more predominantly present in blokes that they gravitate towards this activity for reasons. There might not ever be a 50-50 split men and women in hunting, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I feel as though so long as there's equal opportunity for people to get involved and there are no barriers, then whoever wants to participate in this space should be able to. So when people say, oh, how do we get more women in hunting? I'm like, how do we get more people in hunting? Because that will catch all. Like if everyone feels welcome here and a lot more people understand what hunting's all about and how it can benefit them in their life, then that I think is good for the community. There are definitely things that typically make women feel more or less safe and welcome in spaces. But it's funny because it's kind of the same path that men take, but there's just nuances to it. And I remember talking to one of my friends she's a non-hunter, and we were talking about my journey, and she said things to me like, oh, but you've had to work hard to get into hunting. I'm like, well, yeah, but everyone has to. I've had to learn a lot. I've had to prepare myself for what I'm going to face as I come into this space. But she also basically she said to me, you've had to work really hard, so make sure you don't pull the ladder up behind you. And I just said, well, I didn't have to climb a ladder. There was a staircase that everyone can take. And, if you imagine the ground floor is a non-hunter, and then you have to get up to the first floor, and that's when I'm now a hunter. I did build a ladder because I didn't know there was a staircase. So I prepared myself. I looked into it. I made sure that my head was right. I made sure I was confident enough to go and give this a crack and get to know people and put myself out there and not take offense if people weren't doing anything special to make me feel more welcome. So I was ready. I built my own ladder. I rocked up at the space, and then the guys are like, oh, hey, welcome. Like, here's the staircase. I climbed the staircase. So my thing is, it's more about helping people see that there's a staircase that everyone has to take along that journey. There's different steps that you take, and that can be learning about hunting, working out what your own ethos is towards it so that you can make sure that everything that you're doing is in alignment with how you want to live and how you want to show up. Part of it is finding your tribe. So that step for some people will be blokes, some will be women, some will be a mix. We all go through the same steps. What I don't like is when people come along and they're like, let's build an elevator for the women because they need an elevator. And it's like, no, we don't. Like, and that, it tends to come in things like, let's make it pink. I'm like, no, like that's maybe good for girlfriends or wives of hunters. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not either of those things. But as a hunter that happens to be female, I don't want it to be pink. I want things to fit. That's really nice when things actually are fit for purpose for the female shape. That's nice. But we don't need anything special. We just need to make sure that we know the staircase is there, that no one, tries to trip us up on our way up there. Other than that, this is a thing. This is a practice that has been done since the dawn of time by both men and women. And over time, different social expectations have changed so that there are certain things that men gravitate to and women gravitate towards. But I don't think that there's just one big problem with the hunting community that's preventing women from entering it. Well, that's my take anyway.
No, that's awesome to hear. Awesome. It's great to hear that you felt very welcome and you feel safe in it. I've personally heard mixed stories of different women coming in and having different challenges coming in. So it's great to hear that yours is a positive one, because that's how it should be for everyone coming into hunting.
Yeah.
But, as I said, egos get involved, ego is the biggest downfall of hunting, I believe anyway.
It absolutely is. And it's one of those things, right, where, it's a real shame that if any women have tried to enter hunting and have felt unsafe or unwelcome in doing so. And it's not to say I've never received any opposition. Like I've had some, pretty gross comments from some people about hunting. Not anyone I know personally, but you put yourself out there, and sometimes you will get a message either on social media, or you'll hear people, or you get a sense from some people that they're not really happy to have you there. But that might be wrong. Like, I try not to make assumptions. I just go based on what I directly experience with people. But I can choose whether I take on board the negative comments from a few people, or I decide that I am actually going to favor the people whose opinion matter more to me, because they're the kind of people that I want to associate with anyway. It's like, well, people that are negative or being unkind or unwelcoming, I don't want to associate with those people. They're not my tribe. So, like, that's okay. You can have whatever thoughts or feelings you want. You go and do that. And I'll make friends with these people over here. But some of them are old blokes that say, good on you, love. And which is love. I don't mind at all. But it's like, that's even something that some people don't like. Some people are so prescriptive in how other people have to behave for them to be able if I walked in and I was like, I want to do this, but first you have to do this, this, and this for me to want to be here. It's like, well, do I actually really want to be there? And if I don't, then maybe I need to go and create something else somewhere else. But that's not the case. I do want to be. I do want to be in the clubs that I'm involved in. And if there's any small elements that I don't enjoy, I can make suggestions. I can put in my own time and effort to try and cultivate something that I think would help the space. And yeah, other than that, I don't know. So much of it just comes down to personal responsibility. I'm really big on that.
Treat people how you want to be treated at the end of the day. That's the best way to go about it. Being a reasonably new hunter, what would be your top beginner tip for anyone getting into hunting?
Yeah, so there's there's three things that I would say to anyone that was wanting to get into hunting as they're going out there. The first two should be no-brainers, but I would say them anyway. So the first thing is that when you're hunting, every shape, every bit of movement, every sound that you hear in the bush is a human, always, until it's not. So that's my number one rule. Like, often people go out hunting and they're expecting to see a deer, confirmation bias kicks in, and that's how accidents often happen. So for me, it's always a human, no matter what. Second one is wear blaze orange. That to me is a no-brainer. I don't want it to be mandated. I don't feel as though we need to be regulated any more than we are. I feel like you just self-regulate and wear blaze orange. The deer can't see it, the hunters can. So that would be my second thing. The third thing, and I think this is really important, is that you Did you hear this?
No, we just started, so I just lost you, but we'll keep on going from the second thing.
Okay. So the second thing is to wear blaze orange. I don't think it should ever be mandated. I don't want to be any more regulated than what we are, but I feel like that's really important. The deer can't see it, the hunters can. The third thing is really important when you are beginning your hunting journey. I would just encourage people to back themselves at each step, because there's lots of different information out there. Of course, any laws that govern what you're doing, don't play around with those and make up your own set of rules. But in terms of what methods you employ, what your ethics are, that's quite subjective, and there's no one size fits all. There's lots of different opinions that are out there.
Yep.
And it's not just that there's good quality information and crappy information. That's true as well. But even of all the good quality information, there's still a wide range of opinions there about whether you should use guns or bows, whether you should do long range, whether you should do close range, whether you should wait for that stag because you want to let it grow, whether you should drop every deer you see because that's good for conservation. There's so many different opinions, and I think it's really important to work out what fits for you and go with that, because you're going to enjoy your hunting more, and then you're likely to stick at it, and you're going to be doing it in a way that fits within your own ethos. So that's one thing I would just say. And that can take time. It can take trial and error and a bit of getting out there and working out what fits for you. And I would just encourage people to give themselves permission to do that, to back themselves. And even if everyone else is doing something else that seems to be the done way to do things, as long as what you're doing is legal, go with what feels right for you.
No, that's awesome bit of advice. Just on the blaze orange thing, it's something I heard when I went to New Zealand the first time I went there. They tend to tell people not to wear blaze orange when they're in the bush, but to wear the blaze blue that they sell over there. Because people tend to get shot because they're thinking every movement in the bush is a deer, and they see the flash of the orange. So when they're people chasing the reds during the roar, I think more people are being shot wearing the blaze orange because people are thinking they're a deer, and they see the flash of red through the bush. So that's something I've always found interesting.
I've not heard that, but that's really strange. I mean, blaze orange, how could you confuse it? It's quite
it's just something I heard the first time I was over there.
Yeah, righto. I mean, I know that there is some red colouring, but that comes back to my first tip. It's a human. Everything is a human until you know it's not. Don't shoot at shadows. Don't shoot at flashes of colour.
Yeah, there's been some scary stories both here and in New Zealand. But yeah, there's just something. Blaze orange isn't the end all be all from what I've heard. And blue, deer see blue, but there's nothing really.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, that's on their spectrum. So why are we wearing that? Like, let's just all agree to not shoot at anything orange.
Yeah, it's just a crazy one that I've heard over there. Look, again, I heard it while I was over there. I'm not sure how true it is, but it's just something that plays in my head whenever I wear a bit of blaze orange. And I tend not to wear, unless it's mandated, I tend not to wear it because that plays in my head.
Yeah, right. Well, I wear it. I like it. I wear enough of it as well. Like, often if I'm public land hunting like I do, I've got a jacket that's blaze orange. So like if you're mistaking that for a deer, I think you need to rethink your process for sure.
100%. Sorry, my voice has been playing up the last couple of weeks. I was getting over a coldy flu-y thing. It's been going around down here. You spoke about gear fitting right before. What brands have you tried and what are you currently wearing?
I've tried a few things. So the hardest thing for me and for a lot of women is pants. Trying to get ones that fit, because we have a female shape, so we sometimes are a bit bigger in the legs and the butt and then smaller in the waist. And boys' pants are just straight on down. It's a different shape. So the best ones I've worn are Spiker. They're really comfortable and they have lots of pockets. Women want pockets. I know blokes always get pockets by default, but female clothing doesn't always have pockets. So it's very exciting when there's pockets. There's actually the Spiker jacket even has a side pocket, like this big side pocket. You can put a whole banh mi in it. It's amazing. So they're the best pants that I've had. Prior to them, I had just like a Piranha Zion, which is just a hiking brand, I think. That was one of the guys at Melbourne Gunworks suggested that to me. And so they were the hunting pants that I had first. Then I've got some Hunt Tech stuff that's quite good as well. I think in my early days, I had some Ridgeline stuff. I've got my wardrobe is becoming more and more olive and camo and blaze.
No, that's awesome. Something that I was wanting to touch on earlier. What was it like when you first pulled the trigger on your first animal? I know for a lot of people it can be very confronting, and someone that hasn't been around it too much before, how was it walking up on that first animal you pulled the trigger on?
Yeah, so there was lots of emotions. I had already reconciled mentally why I was there and what I was doing. I know that you can't really know how you're going to feel until you're in the moment. But there was at no time a thing of, have I done the right thing? Or, there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be there and I wanted to pull that trigger. But then there are emotions that come in that you can't experience until it actually happens. And there's a sense of gratitude for the exchange, because the only way to consume meat is that an animal will perish. So there's the gratitude to the animal. There's a measure of sorrow because of that exchange. You're faced with the reality of where meat comes from. It's an animal that becomes meat. It's not meat that you go pick up off the shelf. There's no disconnection between where it comes from. There's a sense of pride because it was a clean shot. It happened really quickly. There's minimal trauma to the animal. They go from living in paradise to making their way to your freezer really quite quickly. So and the pride as well, it comes to, or the sense of satisfaction that comes from having to have worked for it, putting all the bits and pieces that you gather along the journey, and then for it to actually come off like that. I was hunting with one of the guys from the ADA, so there's like a sense of camaraderie as well, which is really nice, having shared experiences with people and having other people celebrate the win with you as well. There's like this collective sort of joy that is experienced.
Yep.
Yeah, so lots of emotions, and so some of them are, I guess, tricky to feel, or they don't feel lovely, but they're necessary, and I don't feel that they're negative. I wouldn't avoid feeling them because they're part of the whole experience. And I think if I'm ever not having a regard and respect for the life that has been taken, then that would sit outside of my ethos. I need to actually sit in that a little bit and respect that's just part of it.
No, that's a great answer. I've taken a lot of people to shoot their first animal, whether it's bow, rifle, daytime stalking, spotlighting, and everyone reacts differently. I've seen tears. I've seen, people jump around high-fiving, and, you kind of match the energy of the person who, give a lot of people a minute, they go around feeling the animal. But yeah, like I said, I've seen everything from tears to jumping around and high five. So it's always a confronting thing for someone doing for the first time. Speaking of confronting things, how did you go with the butchering side with that first animal?
That was fine. So yeah, interestingly, a lot less blood than I thought there would be. I understood the anatomy of it before I got there, so it shouldn't have been as surprising as it was. But I'm like, where's all the blood? Why is there not more? And it was one of those things, sort of like a step by step. Some of the things sort of forgot, and because I had my mate there from the ADA, that was really helpful actually, because there was a few things that I'm like, I think this is where I want to go, and got through it. One of the things that was really interesting was that in the past I had only butchered cold animals that had been part of a course that had been shot previously, and I wasn't sure how I'd go with warm meat right after, and that was fine. So that was kind of surprising, I guess. And it was surprising when I remember having to cut through one of the ligaments in the leg, and it felt like bone under the knife, but it wasn't. So it was actually just learning how hard I actually had to press, how much it would actually take to get through that ligament. So that was interesting, I guess. I'm curious by nature, so there was like an element of this, like, okay, like this is what it's actually really like in the moment. So yeah, that was, I think I did all right with it.
That's good.
2 legs off and the back straps and carried them out.
And was that the best bit of venison that you had, you being the first thing you've shot?
No, I don't think so.
Nah?
No. I've shot a red deer as well. That was actually, I don't call that a hunt. That was a harvest because it was for a landowner. Yep. And that was bloody delicious. So that was probably the best that I had eaten. And I think as well, with my first deer, I didn't really know how to age it properly or get the best out of it. I made use of it, but I feel as though my culinary skills have increased in the journey as well. So what the end product of the final cooked meal is more enjoyable now than it was at the start.
Yeah, it's a long learning curve when it comes to hunting and the cooking side of it. Like I remember, I was quite fortunate. I've been hunting all my life. My grandparents, they were very outdoors. They're still very outdoorsy people, hunting, fishing, camping. So I was I was getting carried around the bush at 6 months of age, out hunting and fishing with my grandparents. So there's always been that aspect of it, shooting, pigeons and nan cooking them up and learning how to pluck them and feral goats and stuff like that. But I always had someone there doing the cooking side of stuff. So when I first started hunting out by myself with friends, shooting goats with a bow, they would shoot a medium-sized billy and chuck it a whole leg in the oven and trying to cook it like that, and you're ending up with like something as tough as a tire. So that there's been a massive learning curve when it comes to that for me. I've got plenty of cookbooks now, and I pretty much do all the cooking in my house. I absolutely love it, and I'm using as much as I can from making bone broth out of the femurs and bits of the ribs and stuff like that to heart and liver and kidneys. I take all those bits to work and force guys at work to eat them. Well, not really force, but cook them up, make them edible, and do like different heart tacos and stuff like that. Just introducing people that have never hunted into it before, and a few of them have gone and got their firearms license because of it. So there's all these different learning curves. It's funny when people think of hunting when they're coming from an outside perspective, they're thinking you're just killing an animal, but there is so much that goes into it. You like you've said earlier, you're learning animal behavior, you're learning stalking, whether it's dry ground, wet ground, whether it's cold, it's wet, it's hot, it's dry. There's so much that goes involved.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing from the outside. A lot of people don't realize the end game is this beautiful meat that we can eat for ourselves, that we can share, that we can celebrate, and then there's also all the other benefits that come with helping our ecosystem, and it's good for the hunters' health as well to be out in the bush. And there's so many wraparound things, but I think food is one of those elements of hunting that non-hunters can connect with most easily because it's quite a tangible end result. And it's enjoyable. I've actually right now got some shanks in the slow cooker downstairs, so that's sort of just wafting up and smells bloody delicious. Yeah.
Have you tried making bone broth yet?
I have not.
No. It's so good. And then when you're doing the slow cooked meals, you use the bone broth in the slow cooked. I drink bone broth like a warm coffee as well. So there's lots of health benefits for drinking bone broth, but it's also very good to, do shanks in. You add that bit of extra moisture, and rather than use water, put a cup of bone broth from another deer that you've shot or the deer you've shot, and it just gives that extra flavor, I find.
That sounds delicious. Yeah, that's one of those things I'll have to add to my list of things to give a go.
Yeah, there's so much, and you see all these different recipes online, different hunting shows, YouTube things, hear stuff on podcasts. I'm constantly trying different things. Like, the worst thing to do is watch a hunting show that has cooking when you're hungry, because you end up going to the shop spending more money than you should to to cook one meal.
Yep.
Speaking of food, what would be your favorite thing to do with hunted meat?
I do love venison schnitzels. I know they're pretty stock standard, but they're just delicious. So I've made some of them yesterday, so that was really nice. I like curries as well, like a nice slow cooked curry, nice tender meat. Yeah. Oh, and this time I actually want to make some jerky. Yeah.
Are you going to? Do you have a dehydrator? Are you going to be doing it in the oven? Yep.
I have a dehydrator. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I've played around with all sorts of different cuts, My favourite one to do, and it's very time consuming, so I don't make it a lot, is venison biltong. But make it a traditional way where you like soak it in like a vinegar brine and you salt it, soak it in that, then you wash off I might have got the steps reversed. It's been a while since I made it, but then you're crushing up all the cumin seeds and you're coating it in all the herbs and spices, and then you air dry it. You hang it outside in a cool area that gets lots of wind, and you just air dry it for a week, and it is the best thing. It's so nice.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's so good. Sorry, I love the foodie side of stuff when it comes to all of this. I geek out.
Oh, no, absolutely, and that's what it sort of ends up being about. Is a lot of the time it's the food, and I think it's like anything where. So at the start you just do your really stock standard stuff, and then you get really creative with it. It's a bit like that for me with camp cooking in general. I remember as a kid, if we ever went camping, it was sausages and bread or hamburgers. That was it. Like that was what you did camping. Like it was very basic. But now it's, I cooked pizza when I was in the Wanangata. I was like, yeah, Friday night pizzas in the camp oven. It was so bloody good.
How good. So that's just in your standard Dutch oven, camp oven.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So just put a bit of baking paper down. So I made it all out in the bush. So I took the yogurt and the flour, made up my base, and made like a delicious Hawaiian, because pineapple definitely does belong on pizza.
100%.
You get the camp oven really hot, so pop it on coals and then have the lid on and then coals on top, and then just pop the pizza down on a bit of baking paper. Yeah, make sure you turn it regularly, obviously, so it doesn't burn on one side. And yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. I might have to try that when I'm up in the high country soon. So, what about anchovies? Anchovies on pizzas? Yeah, no,
definitely not. Never, and never half. They swim across the whole thing. They taint it. Do you like anchovies?
Love them.
Oh no, definitely not. Fish.
It's funny, pizza toppings always get people divided, whether it's pineapple or anchovies or olives. It always divides someone.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, they're the kind of things that they're a bit funny to have a little argue about, but like at the end of the day, who cares? Like, it's, if you like it, go for it.
Yeah, we've been doing little mini pizzas on English muffins. They're just a nice, quick, easy meal.
Nice.
So it's good being able to do all your own toppings and stuff. One kid has pineapple, one kid doesn't. I have anchovies, jalapenos, all of this other stuff, pineapple, and it's just good because you can change it up, nice and easy.
Choose your own adventure pizza.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I haven't touched on this question for quite a while, but you said you wanted this one brought up. You've thought long and hard about it. Zombie apocalypse weapon. What are you going?
This is something that I've thought about before, and then when I saw there was one of your potential questions, I was like, yes, this is the topic that I like to discuss. So my zombie apocalypse weapon would be a .22 rifle with a retractable bayonet, so that it's, if I run out of bullets, I can still have the blade. It's going to be retractable though, so that it's not going to get annoying if I need to crawl around places with it. And now the scope that I would have on it would probably depend on the actual zombie apocalypse scenario, because if it's your typical Walking Dead, as in they are cold, there's not going to be any benefits on thermal there. But if it's more of a living infected scenario, like 28 days later, then there might be a heat signature, so maybe that would be beneficial. What's the scenario? Walking
Dead style zombies. Anything else is just too extreme,
Yeah, probably a pretty standard scope then. But yeah, 22 with a retractable bayonet.
Yeah, beautiful. Would that be something like a 10-22? Something semi-automatic or old action?
Good question. I feel like I'd want to be able to put in quite a few rounds. So my 22 is a Ruger precision rifle, and it's got the 10 round mags in it. So probably something like that. But mine it's got like a quick release on the bottom, and it's so annoying because it's so easy to press when you're just trying to get into position. You drop the bloody mag out of the bottom, and you're like, oh crap! Like don't do that. So I don't want that happening when zombies are running after me. But yeah, I think something with a mag in it would be good. Yeah. What about you? What's your zombie apocalypse?
Mine changes all the time depending on my mood. I love my bows. So when Walking Dead had some compound bows rather than just the compound bow, that was always good. A recurve bow would be good, but it all depends on what you're doing. 22 would probably be the most practical thing because you could carry plenty of rounds, and
that's right. Just a bucket of bullets and a 22, and you're good to go.
Probably go something like a red dot sight on a 22 would probably be good because it would be a lot of close range stuff. So
yeah. See, no, I'd like to pick them off a bit further out, I reckon, if I could. And then if they're closer, then you're gonna just shoot by feet.
Just rock a red dot on the side so you can turn it sideways.
Yeah. Good to have options. You need to have everything as multi-purpose as possible in a zombie apocalypse.
100%. You said you've got a 22. Do you do much small game hunting, or what other things have you hunted apart from just deer?
The only thing I've shot rabbits and hares.
Yep.
I'd like to shoot some foxes. I haven't. I think it's just one of those things. There's only so much time, and I've spent a lot of it in the bush going after deer. So if I'm out with a gun, that's what I'm aiming for. But I would like to shoot some foxes. But I haven't used it a lot for that.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a bit heavy, actually, to be practical. I bought it because it looked really cool, and then I feel like I actually want to get another 22 now because it's bloody heavy, and it's not practical for any kind of offhand shooting. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of the small game stuff I do is out of a car. Just pest control on a farm. But rabbits, hare. Yeah. Are you eating the rabbits and the hares?
The time that I've gone, no, I haven't. The people I was going with, they gave them to the dogs, I think. So I have eaten rabbit though. Rabbit's delicious, but it's not something I've done a lot. So
definitely find places where you can get out and do it because rabbit is amazing. Go-to in this house is KFR popcorn rabbit. So
delicious. The
little seasoning mix you get from Woolworths that coats the rabbit nuggets fine, and it goes so well. But they do stews. Hares do really good in stews as well. So really great stuff to eat. We'll move on to the top 5 dream animals anywhere in the world. Money not being an issue. What would you be chasing?
Yeah, so this is one as well, like that I've pondered, and it's interesting because deer are what I want to go after, and I'm really blessed to be able to access that right here. So Samba deer, I would like to get fallow. I only ever really want to hunt for meat. And if I was to shoot a stag or a buck, then absolutely, if it had a nice head, absolutely happy to take that as well. But I at the moment where I am in my hunting journey, there's no animal that is unattainable to me because of money. Not because I'm rich, just because this actually applies to a lot of areas in life. There's not really anything that I'm really desiring that I can't already access. Because I don't really have rich fancy needs. I just don't. But if I could have the experience of doing a green hunt overseas, I'd be happy to do that, like a trank dart for the thrill of hunting something exotic and exciting. So whether that's like big cats or something like that, or a rhino or something like that, where you absolutely have to do all the work and it's for the welfare of the animal, I'd be happy to participate in that. But I feel extremely blessed that the animals that I want to hunt are in my backyard. And by that, I mean within my state, because for me, a few hours drive is not a very long way. But there's not anything that money's preventing me from hunting.
No, that's awesome. What about places? Is there any, like, yes, you want to hunt for meat, but, like the Alps in New Zealand or the rainforests in New Zealand, or, like, a lot of people love the idea of hunting the savannah in Africa, or heading over to North America. Yeah,
so New Zealand and North America, that'd be really interesting because I get to travel to a new place. Hey, happy days. It's one of my favorite things to do. So just travel and explore. I probably wouldn't choose Africa, and that would be a safety decision for me. So if it was money and whatever the thing wasn't an issue, and there was, guaranteed that there wasn't going to be any kind of dramas, then I'd probably go there. But that's maybe at some stage there will be a time where I feel that I want to branch out from where I am right now, but there's nothing that is a burning desire for me in any other country for hunting. I am doing a white Christmas with my mum in Europe this year, so that's very exciting, but we will not be hunting. But we will be shooting. There's a gun range in Budapest where I'm going to take her, and I didn't think she would want to do it. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to go shoot some machine guns. Do you want to? And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. I'm like, all right, Mum.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Europe are you going? Because, the hunting over there is pretty... for us, it's exotic. I've had a couple of Danish guys on the podcast that I met while I was over in New Zealand and got to chat about, the different species and how they actually have to get into hunting over there, which is quite a learning curve. It's almost like a uni degree you have to do.
I've heard that. Like, I've heard different people talk about hunting in some areas where it's quite a process. But yeah, so to answer your question, doing a few places, going into Rome for a few days, do the standard Colosseum and things like that there, then flying to Budapest and doing a cruise, a river cruise that does the Christmas markets, then doing Berlin, Munich, Paris and Zurich.
Yeah, awesome. One of my mates was just over in Germany. Oh, not just over in Germany, but about a year and a bit ago, he was over there, and he said that seeing all the roe deer, and he stopped at a couple of hunting clubs and had a look around where he could, and he said it was really, really cool and really interesting over there. So, but yeah, lots of roe deer, which is a pretty cool little deer if you haven't seen them.
I've seen one. So one of the guys at the ADA had a little head. It's so tiny. Yeah. So I've seen that, but I haven't seen them IRL. But yeah, hopefully while I'm over there, like, I'd be happy to see some stuff. I'm not going to hunt while I'm there with my mum, but but it's like one of those things, right? Like, once you actually start hunting, you see sign everywhere. If it is there, like, if there is things to see. I did a e-bike tour with my aunt for her birthday in Warburton, and I don't know if you know Warburton, but there's heaps of deer there, but you can't shoot, you can't hunt there. It's an exclusion area because there was an accident there several years ago. But yeah, sign everywhere.
Amazing, yeah. I talk about it all the time, but I'm not sure if you've been to Adelaide, but we have the Southeastern Freeway, which pretty much you leave Adelaide, it's about 15 minutes from the city centre, and as soon as you hit that freeway, there's deer on the sides of the road everywhere through there, and you're talking 15 minutes from the city centre.
That's wild, isn't it?
And I'll be driving the truck up the freeway. We'll have offsiders in the truck. I'll be like, oh, there's a deer. There's 3 deer. There's a buck. And they're like, how are you seeing that doing 100 k's an hour? Yeah. It's just something you learn.
You get tricked into it, right? And it's just a natural thing. I'm a bit like that with op shops as well. I can spot them anywhere. That's a different type of hunting. That's my treasure hunting. And yeah, I don't know. You tune into the things that you care about.
Have you made any mistakes while you've been out hunting?
In terms of, well, not when I've taken a shot, but I absolutely, I've gone the wrong way, or I've, not been where I thought I was. Nothing dangerous or scary or whatnot. But yeah, absolutely. I bumped heaps of deer, like heaps.
I wouldn't say that's a mistake. I'd say that's more of a learning curve, because I still do that now.
Absolutely. That's what I mean, right? Like, I've had a lot of learning opportunities, and so, but essentially, like, it is. I mean, maybe there's a better word for it, but essentially, it is a mistake. I've done something that has caused me to lose the deer or not be able to get a shot on it. Whereas if I didn't do that one little thing, then I might have. I don't mind. I don't sit out there and get all mad at myself. I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, you win this round, dear. It's just like, all right, that's all part of it. But yeah, no, heaps of stuff like that. Nothing that is like a really scary, meaningful thing that I would now tell people, oh, be careful. You don't it's just all the normal stuff that I think every hunter does at some stage. And then it's like that, there's so many 1%ers in hunting. And, if you get all the little bits right, then you get to harvest an animal. If you get one little thing wrong, then yeah, you might not have that same outcome.
What about leaving something behind on a hunt or losing something while you're out on a hunt? You know, all the podcast listeners would
like
would
my
know
keys
this.
in a paddock.
Yeah. I'm glad you knew where I was going with that.
Yeah. No, I have not had that happen. Nothing really major. I mean, I've forgotten a headlamp before, and that's a bit tricky when you're coming back in the dark. I mean, generally got my phone on me, and that's got a torch. But yeah, it's little things like that. But no, nothing major.
Oh, that's good. Something will happen. You might.
Oh no doubt. Yeah.
Something catches you off guard, like driving 14 hours and then shooting a stag and then losing your keys.
Yeah. What a bugger.
Oh, it's made a hell of a story, and I'm not sure if I brought this up on the podcast, but I was chatting to a customer, and he's like, because I talk to all my customers about hunting, and he's like, oh, you've been out lately? I'm like, oh yeah, I recently did a trip to New South Wales, and he goes, oh, I was actually talking to someone on site who did a hunting trip not long ago, and they went up to New South Wales as well, and they lost their keys out in the middle of the paddock. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And he goes, what? And he goes, yeah, no, that guy that you were talking about was me. He goes, oh, no shit. I was just getting told the story from some random on site.
Oh, that's so funny. So you're famous for that now.
Yeah.
Never mind any of the other stuff in the past. It's the keys.
It's keys, cats.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
It's you can laugh about now. Like in the moment, it's like a bit stressful when stuff like that happens. But hey, you've got a good story out of it.
Oh, I've got a good story out of it. Got a good song through AI generation. Yeah.
How good is AI generation of stuff? My goodness.
I use it for so much, but I've been seeing a few articles where they're talking about it actually lowers brain function, people that use it too much.
Yeah, I reckon it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it to do formatting or the tasks that are time consuming but aren't actually taking up a lot of critical thinking, then it can be used in your favor. It's the kind of stuff that if you had a personal assistant, you'd give it to them.
Yeah.
You create the initial thoughts and you absolutely still drive what's meant to be happening. But then, yeah. I mean, there's lots of different things coming out about AI right now, but I love it because quite often I will have a thought or I will picture something and I don't have, it's either maybe the skills or the attention span to bring it fully to life in terms of a song or a cartoon or different things. And you can give it really explicit prompts and it creates something for you based on what's in your mind and it brings it to life. Bloody love it.
I use it for all sorts, whether it's shit-stirring guys at work when they do something wrong or, quite a few memes have been made out of it, cartoons, songs.
Yes, yes. That's what I use it for too, the funny and creative stuff.
But, like I've always had these thoughts that I'm not artistic enough to get down on paper. I can't draw. I'm dyslexic as all hell, so my reading and writing's horrible. So I've been able to, put my thoughts into something and then it gives me the result I want. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah. How good is that?
Even like getting stories out, putting bits together for the podcast. Like, I can write a story, but my punctuation shit, my spelling shit, and then being able to write it and then go fix all the grammar and, make it sound a little bit better than I'll put it down on paper, which has been amazing for me.
Absolutely. And that's what a proofreader would do for you. So there's already history of people outsourcing this kind of work and now it's AI doing it for you. It's like I once heard Richard Branson speak and he was saying there are a lot of things that he lacks, but he's good at surrounding himself with people that know how to do the things that he doesn't know how to do. So AI is one of those, like, it's the place that you send your stuff to do the stuff you don't know how to do. So long as it's not thinking for you, so long as it's you're initiating it and outsourcing a component of it, but you're still driving it, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, sweet as.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology, podcasts, we're doing a podcast right now. You're thinking about starting a podcast. What has been your thoughts with that and how you're going on that journey, putting that together?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I love hunting. I love talking about hunting, and I often find myself having really meaningful conversations with people about hunting, both hunters and non-hunters. And I really enjoy it when I'm speaking with a non-hunter, and it's like you can see a light bulb go on for them, and or a realization of that's not what I expected, or that it's just there's some curiosity that arises for them, and I feel as though that's how I navigate life as well. I'm extremely curious, and if someone doesn't have the same opinion as me, I'm really wanting to know why or how they've arrived at where they are, and so a lot of the time these conversations end up being really rich and meaningful because they're from a place of wanting to better understand and wanting from my side wanting to share of this activity that I really value. So I'd really like to make that more broadly accessible so that some of these conversations can go beyond the echo chamber, because any hunter you talk to, you don't have to convince them of why hunting is great for you, for the world, for for so many reasons. But it would be really nice to provide a window into that for other people, and a space. So not just to that wouldn't be the only focus. It's about celebrating this thing that we love and sharing it with people that may not realize what they're missing out on by not being aware of what's happening. Because I think sometimes opposition to hunting is from a lack of understanding, not because they're fundamentally against the reality of hunting, but they actually don't know what it is.
That's awesome. I've found this is, I think, 4 years I've been doing this podcast now, which is absolutely flown by. The hardest thing to do is be consistent. Whether people are doing it weekly, fortnightly, like my podcast is. I've had my ups and downs, but I've always hit that fortnightly. Sometimes I'm recording on the Monday night when the episode's going out on the Tuesday. Lately, I've been pretty good. I've managed to get I think I'm about 2 months ahead with podcasts at the moment, which is is a big deal for me. So I've been trying to get a few in the book, just that way that I'm not rushing everything. A bunch of awesome guests have popped up at the similar time, so I've been able to record, and then it's just like, yours isn't going to be out for a little while now, because I've had a bunch of awesome guests come on, but I've made awesome friends from the podcast as well, here in Australia. It's pretty cool to do, because you can do it like how we're doing it now over a computer, have people come over, record it in-house. I've taken recording studios, like recording stuff to other people's houses and recorded, or I've got my little mobile recorder and I've sat around a campfire, I've recorded a few episodes in a hostel over in New Zealand. I caught up with an Aboriginal elder to chat about bow hunting ban here in South Australia, and we sat in his car because it was raining outside, and we overlooked the beach while we chatted about traditional hunting and how a ban on bow hunting will could affect traditional hunting and fishing, from an Aboriginal elders side of things. So it takes you all around the place.
Yeah, and that's what I want to sort of do with it, is that I'm having these conversations anyway, and so for me, I enjoy having them. It's not something that will be a chore in any way for me. I'd really love to do some of the conversations on site. So wherever they're generally happening, if that's around a campfire or just sitting in the bush having a chat. I'm really excited about it, actually. And I've been really encouraged by some of the feedback that I've received from quite a lot of people, and especially from some people that I respect really highly. It's pretty exciting.
No, I'm definitely keen for it.
Yay! Yeah. But it's interesting. Like, there's, from the point of me going, I want to do this, I've started going down that research rabbit hole, and I'm still in that phase of making sure that I've got sort of everything lined up and that it's sort of ready to go. I'm hoping within the next month or so that I'll be ready to start sharing a bit more information about that and start recording. it's amazing doing weekly. I'm not sure if I'd do weekly and maybe fortnightly, but that's part of what I need to sort of work out right now.
Yeah, it's a hard thing, and the best thing to do is be consistent. I've found is as soon as you start doing, and you might go from weekly to fortnightly to monthly, then you start losing that listener base, because people will find another podcast. So as long as you're consistent, and that's why I set fortnightly for myself, is because that's a more manageable. I got a wife, got 2 kids, work a full-time job. So sometimes it's hard to get, an episode recorded. And like I said, at the moment I'm ahead, but all that takes is a few big weekends with the family and a couple of hunting trips, and then I'm back to square one recording on a Monday night.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously everyone comes at these sorts of creative pursuits for different reasons. But I don't know about you, but I don't want it ever to become a chore. I think I'm like, I've got to do another, this is something I love and that I want to celebrate. And that's, it's the way I approach my hunting. I do it in a way that I'm going to continue enjoying it. So like, the week that I just spent, I wasn't getting up at the crack of dawn in -5 and freezing my butt off out in the bush. I can do that. In a zombie apocalypse, I would be doing that. But I love hunting. I don't want to be shivering out in the bush thinking, this sucks. I don't like this. And you know what? You can shoot deer in the afternoon. That happens. And do I reduce the window in which I can hunt if I do that? Of course I do, but I will enjoy it for longer. I think that you just got to know what you like and what approach is best for you and go with that. So that's the way I would approach the podcast as well, is making sure that it's done in a way that I will enjoy it so that I'm investing genuinely. And I think that often the results that come out of projects where you are passionate about it rather than feeling like, this is the thing I have to do, I think the results that come out are much more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I tend to be a sucker. There's been multiple times I've been out hunting, and it's been -5 and I'm sitting out there going, why the hell am I sitting out? Why it's this cold and rainy? But I'm just a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, but do it if that works for you, right? Like I find myself in uncomfortable situations sometimes and I make the best of it. But that's the thing. I'm an eternal optimist. So I will make the best of it, but I also don't deliberately put myself in positions that I know I'm not going to enjoy if it's then going to, over time, start eroding my joy of this thing that I love.
No, I get it.
That's my approach. So I'm not saying to anyone else, if you don't want to go out in the cold, just don't do it. Like do whatever works for you.
100%. You have to be somewhat comfortable while you're out, because like you said, you don't want to burn yourself out of it. But I'm just too stupid to quit, so I put myself in these ridiculous situations all the time out hunting. I know the first trip I did to New Zealand, I was, I feel the cold. I'm normally a pretty warm sleeper, but that first trip to New Zealand was the coldest I've ever been, and I didn't have the best equipment either, a floor without a tent, a non-insulated mattress, and I was just frozen and wet the whole trip and hated it the whole time I was there, but pushed through, and now I look back on it and it was an amazing trip.
Yeah. And in hindsight, like you remember things with a lot more fondness than while you're experiencing it. So all for that. But I don't know, there's enough things that get thrown at you in life that, you can deal with anyway. But, each to their own.
That's it. We're getting towards the end of the podcast. I'm looking forward to your podcast, that's for sure. I'm always excited when there's a new podcast in the hunting outdoors space, and it's always good to get different people's perspectives on stuff, especially when you're planning on chatting to people that are non-hunters. So that's something I look forward to, because I've been listening to a lot of hunting podcasts for, the last 10, 12-ish years when I first got introduced to Joe Rogan and, listening to Cam Haines, Stephen Ranella, those types of people who I started listening to on Joe Rogan. And then, I've been listening to episode-ish 500 and something. And now I think he's on like 2,200 or 2,300. Yeah. And then through that, I've come on to a bunch of different podcasts, people he's had on, and then those podcasts have other people on. So I've listened to a bunch of different hunting podcasts. The Hunting Collective, that was a massive inspiration for myself, and changed a lot of my views when it comes to hunting politics side of things. So, and then that's how I formed a lot of my questions. So going from there, how do you see the public views on hunting and hunters?
Oh, good question. And also, I just want to quickly say thank you for all that encouragement. And one of the things that I love about the hunting community is that there's this sense of wanting to share. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but it's funny because I've recently started listening to a lot of podcasts. And I don't think of it as a competitor analysis. It's like a comrade analysis, right? It's like, oh, I wonder what people are doing in this space. And, oh, that's really cool what they're doing. And how can I add to this space? So thank you for your encouragement. So how do I think the public view hunting? I think there's a mix of opinions. I don't ever assume that people are going to be in opposition to the fact that I hunt. I talk about it really matter of fact. I don't try and push it in anyone's face. And if people are indicating to me that they're not interested in hearing about it, then I respect that. Just the same as if they don't want to hear about anything else that I'm interested in. But I think that a lot of people are curious. And even if they're not curious and they are being somewhat critical, it comes from a lack of understanding generally. And if you can approach that with respect and kindness, a lot of the time you can actually have a meaningful conversation with those people. If you're going really defensive and getting your back up, then it's like, well, you're kind of setting the wrong tone for that kind of conversation. No one likes to be misunderstood or told that they're wrong. That goes both ways. That respect goes both ways. And if someone else is not giving me respect, doesn't mean that I then become all defensive, because it's sort of like, it's like the saying, if you have to tell someone you're powerful, you're not. So I know what I'm doing is legal and ethical. There's a lot of reasons why I do it. If someone else is telling me something that I don't believe to be true, there's no reason for me to have to defend that or deny that or convince them otherwise. But if they're interested and if they're wanting to have a conversation, then absolutely, let's do that. So I think that, and I'm still quite young. I'm a 3-year-old hunter, really. Like I still have a lot to learn and experience, and I can't know what it was like for people 20 years ago or 15 years ago hunting, because I wasn't in the space. So I don't know. I make my assessments on a lot of stories that I hear. But from even from the stories I hear, I do get a sense that there is a wider acceptance of hunting now than what there maybe has been in the past, which is great. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about, is being involved in any opportunities that can positively represent the hunting community. So that's like when I was invited to be part of the ABC article on hunting, I was all for that, because it's an opportunity to showcase this activity that we love. And yeah, I try and approach it with a mentality of, this is something that is a noble pursuit. And if people don't see it that way, okay. Like, I'm not going to change their mind by being combative or being disrespectful. They're just not one of my people potentially, or we're just going to not see eye to eye.
So how do you feel when it's, not those people borderline, it's more the aggressive people that are actually trying to get, like we've just had bow hunting banned here in South Australia. What's this like with those people, especially because there's a few strong voices in Victoria that are actively trying to ban hunting? How does that make you feel with that type of stuff?
I guess if it's in strong opposition and very vocal opposition to hunting, I feel as though there are channels by which you can protest, or that you can affect change. And if you continue doing that, I think if we as hunters start flying off the handles and start being disrespectful to others, we're not going to present ourselves in a very positive light. So I'm not for doing that. I actually think that some activists on, for some causes, the way that they conduct themselves doesn't do much for their cause either. And I just don't want to fall into that trap of being reactive or giving any content that could be misused and set, if we're looking irrational or we're looking aggressive or we're showing up like that, then that for some people would be evidence that, they're not to be trusted, then, doing this or that or the other thing. I think that there are ways in which you can go about representing hunting that doesn't have to resort to those to any kind of combative tactics. But I do think that it's okay to be passionate and to be protective of this. It's like there's a difference between being defensive and being protective. This is a space that we love. And so our voices need to matter. So some of the things that you can do is joining associations, that you can vote. Like some people don't vote. Some people, or, they won't do a legitimate vote. And it's like, well, I know that we can't control everything, but if you're not even having a say in the things that we do have access to, then you're missing an opportunity to potentially represent this space. So things like joining your associations, share whatever you share, making sure that it is appropriate and so that it's not misrepresenting what hunting is all about. And it's not about sugarcoating. So it's not about having to deny the fact that we hunt or making it more palatable, because if you actually look at the reality of hunting, it is inherently honourable. So you don't have to dress it up, but you just need to be mindful of the fact that some people don't want certain things shoved in their face. Sorry, I think I've gone on a few tangents from that question, but
no, that's awesome. You covered the next one pretty well too, so that's awesome. Like I said, the last few guests have been able to cover both questions in the one bit, which is great to hear. It is a difficult one because I've been on both sides where I've come at it in a pissed off, angry way, because I'm so passionate about what I do, especially with this bow hunting ban here in South Australia and seeing how things could go downhill really, really quickly, without much public consultation, and how they go through back doors to try and push these things. So following certain people in Victoria and New South Wales that are quite loud, and then, they bait hunters to get them to call them a bitch or whatever. Yes. I see a lot of that, and then they play the sexist card on hunters, which I see quite a bit.
And I guess this is sort of what I'm meaning. Like, don't give any fuel that can be used to misrepresent hunters. And like, we do need to have a voice, and we need to make sure that we are actually speaking up and representing hunting. And one of the ways that we can do that is supporting each other. And, and I know it sounds potentially silly, but even just, sharing of socials, and because there's algorithms that work to either share or not share content. So working together and like your approach to what you're talking about with podcasts and, wanting to support each other, that's fantastic. And it's the same with any of the socials and getting out there and representing hunting positively in ways that are above reproach and can't be used against us. So, making sure that you sign petitions if you want them signed, or fill it. Give feedback. So I work in research, and so whenever you analyze data, there is methodologies that are used to work out what people are saying, essentially. And I've known people that have said, there's been government surveys on hunting or land access or whatever it is, and people will be like, oh, what's the point? They're not going to listen anyway. I'm not going to fill that out. But do you know who is filling it out? The opposition. They're filling it out heaps of times. That's heaps of evidence. And so, yes, absolutely, it may or may not have the outcome that you want. But if you're not even having a say, there's no evidence to say that your opinion was what it is. And all you need is, on the inside, if there are people that are sympathetic to hunting causes, they need evidence to be able to back up the hunting position. So there was, when the lead projectile ban was happening in Victoria, there were some people like, oh, you know, we're not going to say anything. But the ADA was doing a lot of work to have an outcome that was good for hunters. They had been having conversations with people in Parliament, and if the hunters aren't filling it out in a way that those people on the inside can use the evidence of what is being said in our favour, then it doesn't exist. It's kind of like, you know, there's a fortress and there's people on the inside, but we've got to give them the ammunition that they need to use.
Yep.
If we're not having a say, then there's nothing to fall back on. There's no data to show that we've even said anything. So I'm really big on that, like using all the official channels to make sure that we are having a say.
Yeah, it's a hard one because we've been, as hunters, been on the defense for so long, you know, especially, you know, the firearm side of things, you know, it's just constantly, we feel the need to defend ourselves, you know, so people aren't putting positive stuff out as much because they're too busy defending rather than, you know, letting emotions run wide. And I'm guilty of it. I've, in the past, you know, I've baited anti-hunters. I've spoken to you about the, you know, like the global hate campaign that was against me, and that was a massive learning curve because like I had people, you know, just death threats, but then I also had people that message, why are you doing this? And I'd send them a message, why I'm doing it, and you know, like they're like, oh, okay, but why do you need to take a photo with it and post it on social media? I'm like, well, you know, I'm taking a photo because I'm proud of what I've done for conservation, you know, shooting a feral cat, and I'm sharing that with other people that, you know, are going to seek the same type of passion I have for taking that feral animal off the landscape. And they're like, oh, okay. And, you know, I'm actually still friends with a few of these vegans that messaged me, you know, 10 years ago with this, with it. And, you know, I don't talk to them as much, but, you know, we had insightful conversations about why this is important and, you know, why we shoot these animals, and different countries have different reasons for hunting. So,
yeah, you know, like, and I think no matter what you do, you will be judged by someone.
Yeah.
I just think it's better to be judged or to be aligned with the people whose opinion you want anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like no matter what you do, if you do, you don't, someone's going to have a problem with it. You know, like when I did the ABC article, I received a message from someone saying, why don't I put a bullet in my own head? And I'm like, oh, that's fun. That's nice to receive. And, you know, and that's someone anti-hunting, right? But then there was someone that commented on the video, because in the article or in the video, I said, dear poo. And apparently that means that I'm unprofessional, that I'm not representing hunting because I didn't say scat. And I'm like, far out. All right, mate. Like, and I was like, you know what? I mean, I'm going to let you in on a secret here. I also sometimes say gun instead of firearm. Woo, like far out. Like, but so people will always have a problem with something that you're doing. But if you more often than not show up confident, show up respectfully representing this space, I can't believe that that's not going to benefit the cause over time. You know, I don't, we can't, there's no magic fix to this, you know, this journey, this space, but yeah.
it's a tough discussion to have because there's so many rabbit holes you can go down with it. You know, what better question to ask now than what is hunting to you?
Well, so hunting is something that I feel I have always done in my life in some way, shape or form. So it's not just the harvesting of wild game. It's the pursuit of all sorts of things. So I've been a treasure hunter in op shops, and I've sought all kinds of things in my life. It's the pursuit. Hunting is the pursuit. But then that can take on many forms. In terms of literal hunting, when we're talking about game species, it is having to use everything at my disposal to outsmart an animal, to then have the privilege of pulling the trigger and harvesting that meat to then consume and enjoy and be connected to the source of where it's coming from.
No, that's awesome. Do you feel that, there's the hunting that you've done in the past that's not, hunting an animal has led you towards hunting more because you've always had that pursuit, like that pursuit
Absolutely.
of something?
I have been a seeker my whole life. There are things that I have wanted and I have gone after, and I continuously will throughout my life. There are some things that I've achieved and found a lot of satisfaction in. There are some things that I'm still seeking in my life. I'm eternally curious and always seeking. I have a very long bucket list. It's massive, and the more things that I tick off, the more that I add on to it. So I think that's always been in my nature to seek things and to not to just sit around and think that things are going to be handed to me. If there are things that I want, then it's up to me to go out and get them. So I do think that has helped me in my journey, even when I've thought about it. And yeah, I knew it was male dominated, but again, I was just like, okay, well, it's something I want to do, so it's on me. I'll just go and do it. And throughout other parts of my life, so I moved out of home really young and supported myself throughout VCE and have worked in jobs that have interested me and have set up a life that works for me, that allows me to travel and enjoy myself while still working towards my long-term goals. So I've always been someone that has seen things that I want and gone after them. And yeah, so that has probably inspired me or benefited me in hunting. And now hunting on the reverse, the lessons that I'm learning in hunting are then helping me in my journey of seeking outside of hunting as well. Yeah.
No, that's awesome to hear. It's so good. Especially for someone that's so new to hunting, you're very, very insightful and very, very passionate, which is great to hear.
Oh, thank you. I do tell people I'm very wise, you see.
That just comes with the nature and the time. The more time you spend out bush, the wiser you get.
Oh, absolutely. Time in the bush is never wasted. You always come back with something. And, it really does. There's so many parallels between hunting and other areas in your life, for sure.
And just the reset it does for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's evidence, there's studies that go into the effects that time in nature has for you. Absolutely.
Well, Cass, I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been awesome chatting to you. And I honestly can't wait to hear what you're going to bring out with your podcast, because, like I said, I love different podcasts, and I love listening to, there's a new podcast, Drew and Cam, Get Outdoors. They're in Victoria. I've just done a podcast with them recently too. And, I love hearing everyone's reasoning to get into hunting, but then getting into the podcast so that they can, spread the good word of hunting.
That's just it, yeah.
So, if people have enjoyed what they've heard, where can they find you on social media, and where can they look out for this podcast that's going to be out in the next few months?
Yes, so they can find me on social media at the Aussie Adventuress, so like adventuress.
Yep.
Female adventurer. And that's where I'll share details of the podcast once it's ready to go as well. It'll have its own page surely, but that's where I'll initially share it, is on my Aussie Adventuress Instagram.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, honestly, I can't wait for it, and I'll have you on again in the future to promote it once it's out, because I feel like we can dive down many other rabbit holes.
Oh, definitely. And I will obviously love to invite you to mine once it's up and running also.
Awesome. I can't wait for that invite. Again, thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Great. Thanks, Zach.
Easy as. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. together we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.